Hey, what is up, mortals? Welcome to part 1 season 1 of Overhaul. Just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax, you're in for a treat, and so we begin. It was just another day at the middle school that Aizawa attended. As he walked to class, Aizawa noticed something out of the corner of his eye. It was Katsuki Bakugo. He and his minions were picking on another student. Aizawa recognized the student as Izuku Midoriya. The thing that bothered Aizawa the most about the scene was that Bakugo was using his quirk to intimidate the green-haired boy. Bakugo must have known that this was against the school's rules. Aizawa heard Bakugo say to Midoriya, "You think that you can be a hero, Deku? You are a hopeless loser." Bakugo raised his hand to unleash an explosion at the trembling Midoriya. Aizawa walked up to the scene and activated his quirk, his eyes going from their usual dark brown to a piercing red. "You know it is against the rules to use your quirk to harm another person, Bakugo," Aizawa said. "Aizawa," Bakugo sneered. "What business is this of yours? It concerns me because you are picking on my schoolmate. This behavior is irrational," Aizawa said. "I am just trying to make this twerp understand that the only thing that matters when it comes to being a hero is power and strength." Bakugo said this with fire in his eyes and magma in his voice. "From what I can see, Bakugo, you are acting more like a villain than a hero. What would your beloved All Might say if he saw this scene?" Aizawa stood firm after saying this to the atomic blonde. While this scene was playing out, Aizawa was thinking to himself that he needed to end this quickly, because his quirk was about to time out. Bakugo got right in Aizawa's face and sneered. The two boys held each other's gaze for what seemed to Aizawa to be forever but was only a minute or two. Bakugo then turned and left the scene without a word. Aizawa then blinked and collapsed to his knees. When Aizawa opened his eyes again, the once trembling figure of Izuku Midoriya was standing over him. Midoriya had a look of concern on his face when he said, "Are you all right? Are you hurt?" These statements surprised Aizawa. "Am I all right? I should be asking you that. After all, you were the one that was just being bullied." Midoriya cracked a worried smile. "I guess you have a point. But I am okay, how about you?" Aizawa did not understand how this guy could go from cowering from fear of physical harm one minute then to showing concern over someone else's well-being the next. It seemed completely irrational to Aizawa's mind. As Aizawa said this, he reached into his pocket and retrieved a bottle of eye drops. He then placed 2 drops in his eyes. "You did not ask me my name," Aizawa said as he blinked the drops into his eyes. "I beg your pardon," Midoriya remarked in confusion. "It is only logical for a person to ask the name of a person who defended them." "Oh, I already know who you are," Midoriya said enthusiastically. "You're Shouta Aizawa, and your quirk is Quick Erasure. It allows you to temporarily block someone from using their quirk." Midoriya then began to ramble on about how cool Aizawa's quirk was. "Whoa," Aizawa said, deadpan. "How do you keep all that information in your head without it leaking out of your ears?" "Oh sorry, I tend to ramble, especially when I see a cool quirk." Midoriya said this while rubbing the back of his head with a look of shame on his face. "I also know who you are," Aizawa said. "You are Izuku Midoriya, the kid without a quirk, but who still wants to be a hero." As Aizawa said the words, he could not get past how irrational the idea was. Aizawa wished to be a hero, just like Midoriya and many of his classmates, but at least they had quirks that were fit for the job, or, failing that, could be developed to the point where they would be useful. He could not understand why someone who was quirkless would think that they could become a hero. Aizawa's curiosity finally overcame him, and he asked Midoriya, "Are you serious about becoming a hero even though you are quirkless?" Midoriya stood there dumbstruck by Aizawa's bluntness. The green-haired boy stood there for a few minutes unable to say anything. When he finally spoke, his voice was full of uncertainty. "I know that it may seem crazy to most people for a quirkless loser to like me to become a hero. It would probably be easier if I were to become a doctor or a lawyer. It would certainly be a lot safer. But everything in my heart and soul tells me that I must be a hero. A hero that saves everyone with a smile on his face." The passionate words from Midoriya made Aizawa feel as if this plain-looking boy might just be able to do it. Even with this feeling, the ever-rational Aizawa knew that Midoriya was unlikely to get into any hero course. He was so small in stature and lacked any muscle. Aizawa reached into his pocket and took out a piece of paper. He quickly wrote an address on it and handed it to Midoriya. Aizawa looked directly at Midoriya and said, "Meet me at that address after school." Aizawa turned and calmly walked to class. Later that day, Aizawa and Midoriya stood outside of a modest house in a city suburb. The house was painted gray with a gray tile roof. Midoriya wondered just what kind of place this was that he had come to. "Aizawa, is this your home?" Aizawa remarked, "This is my home." This surprised Midoriya. Aizawa unlocked the front door. The two boys then walked into the living room. The whole interior of the house was just as plain as the outside. The living room was furnished with gray chairs and sofas and chairs. There were no decorations that Midoriya could see, just walls painted a dull gray. Midoriya remarked, "Well, this is an interesting place." Aizawa stated, "My parents are not big on interior decorating." "Oh, are your parents here?" Midoriya wondered what the parents of Aizawa must look like. My parents work late every night. They will not disturb us. Follow me. Aizawa then turned and walked to a door by the stairs. Midoriya thought it must lead to the basement. He followed Aizawa as he descended the stairs. To call the space the boys entered a basement would have been the understatement of a lifetime. The place was as big as a gymnasium. Against one wall was every kind of weight machine you could think of. The rest of the space was taken up by a parkour course. There was also a climbing wall near the back of the room. In one corner, Midoriya made out a desk and bed that was almost obscured by all the equipment. What is this place? It is huge. Midoriya could not believe that something this size was under such an unassuming home. This is my training room, Aizawa said. What do you need to train for? Your quirk lets you take away other people's powers. Aizawa replied with a voice full of irritation. My quirk stops working when I blink. Plus, it has no effect on hexamorphic quirks. Midoriya was surprised by these admissions. But still, would that mean that most villains would be helpless against you? Aizawa responded. My power would do nothing to stop a villain from beating me down with their normal strength and escaping. Since my quirk does not come with any physical boosts, I have to build my body the old-fashioned way. Aizawa then ran over to the climbing wall and scaled it before Midoriya knew what was going on. From the top of the climbing wall, Aizawa looked down at Midoriya. To be honest, I think that your dream of becoming a hero is irrational. In most cases, having no quirk would make you a liability. It would put yourself and others in more danger. Midoriya was shocked to hear it put so bluntly. But this was not the first time he had heard those words. Even still, those words still felt like a rusty dagger being plunged into his chest. All Midoriya could do was stand. I have no power to stop you from following your dream. But it would be irrational of me not to help prepare you for the hard road ahead of you. Aizawa paused a moment to let his words sink in. What are you saying, Aizawa? While I may not be a world-class hero trainer, I can still help you get stronger. Build your body to offset your lack of a quirk. Midoriya had no words. He barely knew Aizawa, yet he was willing to train him. As tears started to stream down his face, Midoriya could only get out 2 words. Thank you. Aizawa was unfazed by this show of emotion. He then said, Oh, you should not thank me. I plan to put you through the most grueling training of your life. It will feel like you're dying. Midoriya was creeped out by the sinister look that crept across Aizawa's face. Aizawa interrupted Midoriya's freak out when he said, What hero course do you plan to apply to Midoriya? Midoriya's eyes lit up when he said that he wanted to attend UA, just like his hero All Might. Aizawa then revealed that he wanted to attend UA as well. His belief was that if you were going to become a hero, then you should become the best one you can. That meant attending UA. Aizawa then said, That means we have 2.5 years to get in the best shape we can. Midoriya responded that he will do what it takes to be a hero. Aizawa then said, Okay, let us get started. Every afternoon the 2 boys would train at Aizawa's house. Midoriya would then go home to study, eat dinner, and sleep. They would even train extra hard on the weekends. It was hard for Midoriya to keep up with the fast pace that Aizawa set at first. But as the days passed, it became a little easier for him, and his body got stronger. Aizawa was most impressed by the fact that Midoriya never gave in. He had expected the brutal training to break the boy's spirit. Despite everything, Midoriya just kept at it. This is how 2.5 years passed for the 2 boys. While Aizawa would never be described as the emotional type like Midoriya, he did grow to care about Midoriya over that time. The 2 boys formed a brotherly bond, with Aizawa playing the role of the sullen older brother to Midoriya's emotional younger brother. This relationship would affect both boys going forward. Aizawa would see Midoriya as a friend that he could rely on. Midoriya would grow more confident in his physical abilities because of Aizawa's training and friendship. We next meet up with the 2 boys in class. A teacher stands in front of the class. The teacher announces to the class, Well, students, I could hand out these career tests, but what is the point? He then throws the tests into the air. I know that you all want to go to the hero track. The students then go crazy. They all start to openly display their quirks. The teacher then tells the students that they are impressive, but it is against school's rules to use their quirks during class. The voice of Katsuki Bakugo, full of confidence, is then heard from the class. Hey, teach, don't lump me in with these losers. I'm going to be the top of the heap. This lot would be lucky to be a sidekick to some busted D-lister. His classmates react with angry glares and comebacks, but all of them recoil when Bakugo tells them to shut it. The teacher then said, Oh, it seems that Bakugo is going for UA. Oh, and it seems that we also have 2 more students going out for UA. According to this sheet, we have both Aizawa and Midoriya signed up. Bakugo reacted with shock at this news. He thought to himself, Those 2, messing up my plans. I was supposed to be the first one from this crappy school to get into UA. Bakugo rushed to Midoriya's desk. He raised his hand over his head, intending to cause a small explosion on Midoriya's desk. But when his hand reached Midoriya's desk, all that happened was that it hit the desk flat-palmed. Bakugo looked across the room and saw that Aizawa was glaring at him. Bakugo uttered through clenched teeth, Aizawa. He hoofed it back to his desk. The moment of impact lost thanks to Aizawa. After the class ended, Aizawa and Midoriya were talking about their plans for the afternoon. While the two talked, Midoriya was flipping through his hero notebook. So Midoriya, I was thinking about our training going forward. Midoriya looked up from his notebook. What about it, Aizawa? Aizawa let out a breath. The UA entrance exam is 8 months away. I think it would be a good idea if we trained separately for that time. Aizawa worried what his sensitive friend would think of this idea. He worried that he would start crying rivers. But the response he got shocked him even more. I think that would be a good idea, Aizawa. It would allow both of us to better focus on developing our skills. Midoriya looked at Aizawa with determination in his eyes. Aizawa found himself astounded by how much Midoriya had changed over the past 2 years. He was not the weak and shy boy he had taken under his wing. While Midoriya was not a social butterfly, he was far more confident and outgoing. He still had the annoying habit of going into long rants about heroes and quirks, but Aizawa had come to appreciate this trait in Midoriya. He had realized that was Midoriya's way of using his mind to make up for his lack of powers. Aizawa knew that to compete with individuals like Bakugo and protect himself and others from villains, Midoriya would need to use mind to make up for his lack of powers. Of course, Aizawa could not overlook how much Midoriya had improved physically either. He had become far more athletic in the past 2 years. Aizawa would never admit it to his friend, but Midoriya's abilities surpassed his in many ways. While Aizawa was no weakling in the strength department, his build and personality had always been better suited for speed and agility. Midoriya was much more well-rounded. He had speed, strength, and agility. His fighting style was even more well-rounded. It was an even mix of punching, kicking, and takedown abilities. While Aizawa had won more matches than Midoriya during their training over the past 2 years, lately, Midoriya had become more of a force to be reckoned with. As these thoughts went through Aizawa's mind, Bakugo approached the pair. His eyes were full of resentment. Bakugo said, "What do you two think you're doing applying for UA? There is no way that they would take you two when they could have someone like me." Bakugo went to grab Midoriya by the shirt, but Midoriya grabbed his hand first. It took everything Bakugo had to not jump back in shock. Midoriya held the Bakugo's wrist in a firm grip. He then looked Bakugo in the eye and said, "It is not your decision whether we take the UA entrance exam or not, Kaken. We are going to take it, and we are going to pass it." Midoriya held both Bakugo's eye and wrist for a few more minutes to prove his point. He then looked at Aizawa and said, "Aizawa, I will call you this weekend to tell you how my training is going. Good luck with yours and work hard." Midoriya turned and left the room, leaving both Aizawa and Bakugo in stunned silence. The next time Aizawa heard from Midoriya was that weekend. Midoriya went into a long story about having met All Might. The great hero had seen potential in him to be a great hero and wanted to train him. As Aizawa listened to his friend fanboy out, he could tell that Midoriya was holding back something. This made Aizawa suspicious, but he also knew that if Midoriya was hiding something, he must have a reason for it. Aizawa told Midoriya that it sounded like a great opportunity. He told Midoriya to make sure that he made the training count. Aizawa spent the next 8 months studying, training, and trying to perfect his capture weapon combat style. His parents had been more than happy to pay for the support item. Aizawa had designed it himself. It played to his style of surprise attacks and speed. Aizawa met Midoriya outside of the UA campus. He could tell that Midoriya had been through some harsh training. The boys greeted each other and walked in together. As the boys walked into the building, Midoriya tripped over his own feet. Aizawa went to catch him, but Midoriya never hit the ground. When Aizawa looked back, he saw a short brunette girl with her hand on Midoriya's back. The girl smiled at the boys. "Sorry I used my quirk on you, but I figured that was better than letting you hit the pavement." The girl helped Midoriya find his footing. Midoriya responded to the girl, "Thank you. Kind of got lost in my own head there. I am Izuku Midoriya. And this serious fellow to my right is Shouta Aizawa." The girl responded, "Nice to meet you too. I am Achako Uraraka." Aizawa said, "Thank you for saving my clumsy friend." Midoriya said, "I am sorry for troubling you." Uraraka said, "Oh, it is no problem. This test has us all on edge. Good luck on the test, you too." With that, Uraraka turned and walked inside the testing site. Midoriya stood in front of the building lost in thought for a minute. Finally, Aizawa pulled him back to reality when he said, "Okay, Romeo, get your mind back on the business at hand." Midoriya smacked himself and said, "You're right, Aizawa. Let us get this test done." And with that, the boys walked into the building. The boys found themselves in auditorium with the voice hero present Mike at the podium. He explained how the practical portion of the exam would go. He told the students that they would be fighting foe villains. Each villain had its own point value, and they were to avoid the 0-pointers. Aizawa realized after hearing the rules that there must be more to the test than just combat. It made no sense for a hero course to focus solely on combat. As he thought about that, present Mike told the students to go to their assigned combat stages. Aizawa stood outside of the most overbuilt factory stage he had ever seen. The doors to the stage opened. Present Mike came over the speakers and said, "Go, go, go. There are no starting signals in combat." And with those words, Aizawa took off into the battlefield. The practical exam had begun. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. Hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We The Celestials Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. I'd like to let you all know, on behalf of We The Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. If you're perhaps interested in what we do here at WTC, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 and older to join our crew. You can find us on our Discord, which you can locate in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. All you gotta do is hit up the recruitment server and sign up for whichever category of work that fulfills your interest. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching and have a great day.